Hello Wargamers and welcome to Let's Get Critical. My name is Gar. Here we have the roster screen for the Battleclade kill team. It details the operatives you can select for the kill team and the archetypes you can select for the kill team. When you're putting a Battleclade kill team together, you only have one leadership choice. He's the Battleclade Technoarcheologist. He has an eradication pistol and a servo arc claw. Then you must select the Battleclade Servitor Underseer operative, who's armed with a mastercrafted radium pistol and data spikes. And then you must select 8 Battleclade operatives selected from the following list. We have the Auto-Proxy Servitor, the Breacher Servitor. There are 3 types of combat servitor. One with an Incendiary Igniter, one with a melter gun, one with a phosphor blaster. There are 2 types of gun servitor, one with a heavy arc rifle and one with a heavy bolter, and then there's a Technomedic Servitor. We'll go through all of those operatives a little later in the video, but what you can see here on the roster is, other than the combat servitor, your kill team can only include each operative on the list once, and your kill team can only include up to 1 combat servitor with a melter gun, and it can only include up to 3 combat operatives with incendiary igniters. So this is essentially a 1-box kill team. I don't think there's any reason why you wouldn't take the Auto-Proxy Breacher and Technomedic, and you'd, I think, definitely take both of the gun servitors. So the only real options when putting this team together is what weapons you take on the combat servitors. If you're playing using the Approved Ops Mission Pack, then you'll select your TAC op from Infiltration or Recon. If you're playing by the core rules or the light rules, you won't have to worry about those. What we're going to look at next is the faction rule for the kill team Battleclade. The faction rule for the kill team Battleclade is called Noospheric Network. Whenever a friendly Battleclade Servitor operative is activated, you can transfer power. If you do, subtract 1 from its APL stat until the end of that activation. After that activation, you can network counteract with 1 other friendly Battleclade Servitor operative before your opponent activates. Whenever you network counteract with a friendly operative, first select its order. It can then perform a 1 AP action for free but cannot move. Once it's done so, your opponent activates as normal. An operative cannot transfer power or network counteract if it has an APL stat of less than 2. Example, if that stat has been changed to less than 2 by a rule. Network counteract is a counteraction, but the operative doesn't need to be expended with an engage order to do it. That means if they're ready when they network counteract, they can still be activated as normal later in the turning point. An operative that does network counteract cannot do so again or counteract during the same turning point. Wow, I know that's a long rule, guys. I know. Now, I've only played about 3 games with the kill team Battleclade so far, but one example is I had one of my servitors. Now, when they network counteract, they can't use the Technoarcheologist or the Servitor Underseer because they have the Tech Priest keyword. It's only the Auto-Proxy, Breacher, Technomedic, Combat Servitors, and Gun Servitors. They all have the Servitor keyword. But I had my Auto-Proxy Servitor, who was essentially like left on 1 wound, and I had a gun servitor on a conceal order who was ready. So when it was my turn to activate, I transferred power with the auto-proxy, gave him a -1 APL token, and then for his final activation, there's 1 APL, I put him behind some cover, obviously with the conceal order. But now he's expended, you could still now network counteract. So the gun servitor who was ready with the conceal order, I flipped him to an engage order, and then I proceeded to do the free AP action and shot and killed one of the enemy operatives that my friend was playing. And then that gun servitor was left with an engage order, but he was still ready. So my friend did his activation. Then when it got back to me, I got to activate the gun servitor again. So essentially that gun servitor got to shoot twice in the same turning point. But obviously, because I'd use network counteract, he couldn't counteract normally. And if he, you know, it's not that complicated when you get into it. What I'm going to do, guys, after this review guide is I'm going to do a strategy guide, and I'm going to show all of these faction rules and all of the special actions in detail. But for now, let's carry on with this video and let's review the operatives and the kill team. The Battleclade Technoarcheologist is the leader of the Battleclade kill team. He's the only leadership choice that you have, and he has a fixed weapon profile. He's 3 APL, 6-inch move, 3 up save, and 9 wounds. His range weapon is Eradication Pistol. It's 4 attacks, hitting on 3s with a 4-2 damage profile. It does have a 1-inch devastating 3, lethal 5 ups, and its range of 8 inches. His melee weapon is the Servo Arc Claw. It's 4 attacks, hitting on 4s with a 3-4 damage profile, and it has severe and shock. So looking at his key stats, you know, I think he's doing great. The 3 APL and the 6-inch move is always very useful in kill team. The 3 up save is really good. The 9 wounds I don't think is that great, but you know, you are stuck with it. It's not that bad. The Eradication Pistol is a strong weapon, hitting on 3s, 4-2 damage, obviously with 1-inch devastating 3 and lethal 5 ups. It's a strong weapon. And the Servo Arc Claw is, I suppose it's a decent weapon. The Battleclade Technoarcheologist has additional rules. He has a unique special ability, it's a Strategic Gambit, and he also has a special action which costs 1 action point. Let's look at those. The Strategic Gambit is Seeker of Divine Arcana, and you can immediately change this operative's order, and or it can immediately perform a free Omniscanner, fallback, place marker, pickup marker, reposition, or mission action. If it's the fallback or reposition action and this operative isn't carrying a marker, it must end that move either within your drop zone. If this isn't possible, then as close as possible to it, or with an objective marker or one of your mission markers within its control range. It is a bit of a complicated rule. I've used it, you know, several times. What I'm going to do, like I said earlier, is do a review guide, a strategy guide on this video after the review guide, where I'll demonstrate the Seeker of Divine Arcana. The special action that he has is a bit more simple. It's 1 action point and it's called Omniscanner. You select 1 enemy operative visible to or within 8 inches of this operative to gain 1 of your Omniscanner tokens. Whenever a friendly Battleclade operative is shooting against, fighting against, or retaliating against an enemy operative that has 1 of your Omniscanner tokens, that friendly operative weapons have the Ceaseless rule. This operative cannot perform this action while within control range of an enemy operative. I've used that quite a lot in my games I've played, and it's really, really strong. You know, like I say, if it's within 8 inches, you don't need to be visible. If he's hiding in ruins, you could still, you know, put an Omniscanner token next to him. But if it's outside of 8 inches, you have to be able to see it. But, you know, once he's got an Omniscanner token, any member of the kill team that's fighting it gets Ceaseless, whether it's shooting or fighting or whether it's retaliating. It's really strong. It's really useful. But in the strategy guide, I'll go through those in detail. Next, let's look at the next operative. Battleclade Servitor Underseer. He's 3 APL, 6-inch move, 3 up save, and 9 wounds. He has a ranged weapon called the Mastercrafted Radium Pistol. It's 4 attacks, hitting on 3s with a 2-4 damage profile, ranged 8, balanced and rending. And he has a melee weapon called Data Spikes, which is 3 attacks, hitting on 5s with a 2-3 damage profile. So he has the same key stat line as the Technoarcheologist. It's always great having 3 APL and a 6-inch move. 3 up save is really, really good. The 9 wounds, you know, isn't so great, but still very usable. The weapon systems on this Servitor Underseer aren't as good. The Mastercrafted Radium Pistol is a decent weapon. The balanced reroll, and the rending is if you get a crit, you can upgrade one of your normals to a crit. You know, it's a bit circumstantial, and the data spikes are pretty poor really, but at least there's something to retaliate. I mean, 3 attacks hitting on 5s with 2-3. You don't want to go to combat with this guy at all. He does have, though, 2 special actions. They both cost an action point, and the first one is called Noospheric Spur. It's a support action, and you select one friendly Battleclade Servitor operative within 6 inches of either this operative or a friendly Battleclade Auto-Proxy operative to immediately perform a free dash action, and you cannot select each Servitor operative for this rule more than once per turning point, and this operative cannot perform this action while within control range of an enemy operative. I've used it a few times in my games. You know, it is quite strong. It is very useful. And then his other action, which obviously, you know, because you're only allowed to use an action once per turning point, so he has 3 APL. He can not use either of one of these twice, but he can use, you know, both of them. The network override action is a support action. You select one friendly Battleclade Servitor operative within 6 inches of either this operative or a friendly Battleclade Auto-Proxy Servitor operative to immediately network counteract, and you don't have to transfer power to do so. Continue this operative's activation after doing so. This operative cannot perform this action while within control range of an enemy operative. So again, I've used that. It is very useful. Both of these special actions for the Battleclade Servitor Underseer are useful, and I'll detail those in the strategy guide. But let's look at the next operative. The Battleclade Auto-Proxy Servitor has 2 APL, a 5-inch move, 4 up save and 8 wounds. He has 1 weapon system. It's called the Taser Goad. It's a melee weapon. It's 4 attacks, hitting on 4s with a 3-4 damage profile, and it has lethal 5 up and shock. All of the servitors in the Battleclade kill team have got 2 APL. It's only the tech priests that have got 3. So this is, you know, the kind of core stat line for all the servitors we've got left. This guy generally, you know, is a step down from the tech priests, but you know, he's still usable. He does have additional rules, some special operative rules, and he does have a special action as well. His additional rules, his special ability is called a Kill an Eye. Whenever a friendly Battleclade operative is shooting an enemy operative visible to this operative, that friendly operative's ranged weapons have the Saturate Weapon rule, and this rule has no effect if this operative is within control range of an enemy operative. So anything that's, you know, good, anything that the Auto-Proxy can see, any other Battleclade operatives' weapons have Saturate against it. So it is quite strong. And his special action is called Gaze of the Omnissiah. You select one enemy operative visible to this operative until the end of the turning point. Whenever a friendly Battleclade operative is shooting that enemy operative, you can use this effect. And if you do, that friendly operative's ranged weapons have the Seek Light Weapon rule, and that enemy operatives cannot be obscured. This operative cannot perform this action while within control range of an enemy operative. So it is quite good. Generally, I like to use him, put him forward a bit, you know, and put him into some good cover where he's got good visibility. So his a Kill an Eye special rule, his unique operative rule, is always in action. And if I do see a good opportunity against, you know, one of the enemy operatives, then I can spend an action point, and then I give all the other Battleclade operatives the Seek Light Weapon rule, and it can't be obscured. So he is very, very useful, and like I say, in the strategy guide, I'll go through him in detail. Let's go to the next operative. The Battleclade Breacher Servitor is 2 APL, a 5-inch move, a 4 up save, and 8 wounds. He has 2 weapons. He has a ranged weapon called the Last Cutter, and it has 2 profiles. The Last Cutter close range is 4 attacks, hitting on 3s with 4-5 damage. It's ranged 2 inches, lethal 5 up and piercing 2. And the Last Cutter short range is 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, 4-5 damage. Range 6 inches, lethal 5 up. And his melee weapon is Hydraulic Pincer and Last Cutter. It's 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, for 6 damage and lethal 5-ups. So he has the same key stats as the other servitors. Again, it's a step down from the tech priests, only 2 APL, not 3, 5-inch move instead of 6, and the save's only 4-ups, and it's 1 wound less. So he is a step down, but his weapons are very strong. This is one of the the strongest servitors. His last cutter cloak range is just brutal. 4 attacks hitting on 3s, 4-5, range 2, lethal 5-up and piercing 2. It's really, really brutal, to be honest. And his melee weapon is quite strong as well. The hitting on 4s isn't great, but it does have 6 damage on the crits and lethal 5-up as well. He is a strong operative. He also has a special action he can use on the kill zone, and it's called Breach, and it costs 1 action point. Place one of your breach markers within this operative's control range, as close as possible to a terrain feature within control range of it. Whenever operative is within 1 inch of that marker, it treats parts of the terrain feature that are no more than 1 inch thick as accessible terrain. This operative cannot perform this action while within control range of an enemy operative, or if a terrain feature isn't within its control range. So overall, in all the games I've played, the Breacher Servitor is very, very useful. You're going to be taking him in all the games, and when we get to the strategy guide, I'll show you the Breach special action as well. But now let's look at the next servitor. Battleclade Technomedic Servitor. 2 APL, 5-inch move, 4-up save, 8 wounds. He has 1 weapon. It's called the Servitor Claw. It's 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, 3-4 damage, and rending. So he has a standard stat line for the servitors, and he has 1 weapon. I'll be honest, it's just a very decent weapon. He's not really meant to be used in a fighting role, but there is something great about the Technomedic Servitor. I love it to bits. Now, there are 2 obviously other things. There's the special rule, the additional rules called Meccano Suture Array, and just bear with me, he does have a special action which is called Expedient Repair. So first I'm going to go through the Meccano Suture Array. Once per turning point, when another friendly Battleclade operative would be incapacitated while visible to and within 3 inches of this operative, you can use this rule providing neither this nor that other operative is within control range of an enemy operative. If you do, that friendly operative isn't incapacitated, it has 1 wound remaining and cannot be incapacitated for the remainder of the action. After that action, that friendly operative can immediately perform a free dash action, but it must end that move within this operative's control range. If this rule was used during that friendly operative's activation, that activation ends. You cannot use this rule if the operative is incapacitated, or if it's a shoot action and this operative would be a primary or secondary target, i.e. from blast. So it's basically very, very strong. I've used it in, I think, every game I've played, bar 1, I've managed to use it, and some of my own training games. In my opinion, the Battleclade Technomedic Server is the strongest medic in the game. If you've got a medic in any of your other kill teams, you'll realise it's quite similar rule. But with this one, you don't have to minus 1 APL, you don't have to subtract 1 APL when he does it, which is brilliant. And also, it pairs lovely with this one here, his special action. His special action is 1 action point, and it's called Expedient Repair. So you select 1 friendly Battleclade operative within this operative's control range to regain up to D3 plus 3 lost wounds, and it cannot be an operative that the Meccano Suture Array rule was used on during this turning point. This operative cannot perform this action while within control range of an enemy operative. So again, for a medic's action, that's really good. Lots of other medics, it's 2D3. Here you get D3 plus 3. The only downside is if you use the Meccano Suture Array, to bring someone back to life and leave, you can't use it on the same turning point. But in the next turning point, you can just spend an action point and get him back up to nearly full health. So very, very strong. You'll always take the Technomedic Servitor. He is really strong. We'll go through those additional rules and that action in the strategy guide. Let's go to the next servitor operative. Battleclade Gun Servitor, 2 APL, 5-inch move, 4-up save and 11 wounds. He has 2 weapons. He has a ranged weapon called the Heavy Arc Rifle, 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, 4/6 damage, heavy, dash only, piercing 1 and stun. And he has a melee weapon called Augmetic Claw, 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, 4/5 damage and brutal. So this is the first of the Battleclade Gun Servitors. Again, he has the same core stat line as the other servitors, but he does have an extra 3 wounds, which is really nice. His ranged weapon, the Heavy Arc Rifle, is very good. I enjoy using this. It's, you know, it's really strong. The piercing 1, the stun, 4/6 damage, dash only. I mean, I don't like hitting on 4s, but I think this gun personally is worth, you know, always considering a command point reroll, especially if you have a nice juicy target and you can kill them. And his Augmetic Claw is, well, just very much a decent weapon. The 3 attacks hitting on 4s isn't really good, but the 4/5 damage and brutal, you know, I suppose it makes it decent. Now, the Battleclade Gun Servitor, like I say earlier in the roster, there are 2 of them. You can't take 2 with the Heavy Arc Rifle, and you can't take 2 of them with the Heavy Bolter. You can take 1 of each, or you could decide not to, but I don't see why you'd always take the Gun Servitors, in my opinion, over Combat Servitors. The next Gun Servitor is going to come up right now, and here he is on the screen now. It's the same core stats, you know, 2 APL, 5-inch move, 4-up save, 11 wounds, the same Augmetic Claw. It's a different weapon though. This is the Heavy Bolter profile. The Heavy Bolter has got 2 profiles. You've got the Focused, which is 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, 4/5 damage, heavy dash only, piercing, crits 1. And then you've got the Heavy Bolter Sweeping, which is 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, 4/5 damage, heavy dash only, piercing crits 1 and torrent 1. So these gun servitors, in my opinion, are both very useful, and I'm quite happy having one with a Heavy Bolter and one with a Heavy Arc Rifle. It takes away the decision making of, oh, should I take 2 with a heavy, or should I take 2? Just is 1 of each. It's that simple. I like it. Now, I also think they complement each other really well, because obviously the Heavy Arc Rifle is a bit more of a hard hitter and it has the stun, so it's always taking 1 defense dice off them. But this one has 2 profiles with piercing crits, so, you know, most of the time you'll be making them remove a defense dice, but it's also got the sweeping profile, so if you find, you know, some of them clumped together, you know, you can use the torrent 1 on those. So in the games I've played, I'm perfectly happy with the gun servitors. They don't have any special rules. They don't have any additional rules, you know, special actions. So there's nothing really to demonstrate. We'll see them in action when we do the battle report coming up soon. Now let's go into the last operatives for the kill team, the combat servitors. Battleclade Combat Servitor, 2 APL, 5-inch move, 4-up save, 8 wounds, same profile as the Auto-Proxy, Breacher and Technomedic. Now, when selecting these, the Servo Claw melee weapon, as you can see here, is the same on all of the combat servitors. It's 3 attacks, hitting on 4s with a 3/4 damage. But they have all got different loadouts on the range weapons. This is essentially the biggest part of the game, but I'll be honest with you, you'll find when you see these that it's probably going to be the same in nearly all lists you come across. So the first range weapon we get to here is the Incendiary Igniter. It's 4 attacks, hitting on 2s, 4/4 damage, range 6, saturate and torrent 1. So it's a flamer weapon. It's a very strong flamer weapon. We all love flamer weapons because they hit on 2s, and obviously usually they're 3/3 damage. This is 4/4, so you know it's a very strong flamer. Although the Battleclade Combat Servitor with an Incendiary Igniter is strong, there is one guy who's much stronger, and he's coming up now. It's the Battleclade Combat Servitor with a Melter Gun. The Melter Gun is 4 attacks, hitting on 4s with a 6/3 damage profile, but it has devastating 4, piercing 2, and obviously a range of 6 inches. So this guy is also a real heavy hitter. The same core stat line as before, 2 APL, 5-inch move, 4-up save and 8 wounds, but you know, he is better. Now, when you select your combat servitors, only one combat servitor can be equipped with a melter gun. And then the other two combat servitors, I think you're always going to take with the Incendiary Igniters that we saw, you know, on the last data card. There is a final weapon, which I'll show you now. And it's the Battleclade combat servitor with a phosphor blaster. It's 4 attacks, hitting on 4s with a 3/4 damage and severe. Now, I've built this model, as you can see, painted at the side, not brilliantly painted, but, you know, at least they're battle ready. I only built this so I had one of each, you know. In hindsight, really, I think I'll always be running him with an Incendiary Igniter and obviously taking the Melter Gun operative. But these Battleclade combat servitors are the only real choice in the game. And like I say, I think that 99% of people playing the Battleclade kill team will take one with a Melter Gun and 2 with Incendiary Igniters. This gets us to the end of all of the operatives, and this is, you know, a detail. Like I say, as far as all the additional rules and all the special actions go, they will be coming up in the Battletech strategy guide. I'll be running some clips from the battle reports that we've done and some of the games I've played at the NGC Newport Gaming Centre, and I'll be showing you those in detail. But now, let's look at the faction equipment for Kill Team Battleclade. Here is the Battleclade faction equipment. As with all kill teams, there are 4 faction equipment choices that you can take if you want to. We have Concealed Apparatus, Covert Guises, Electromantic Capacitors, and Neurocyclic reserve cells. I'm going to go through each of them in detail, and let's start with the Concealed Apparatus. Battleclade faction equipment, Concealed Apparatus. Strategic Gambit. In the second turning point, you can swap the locations of any number of friendly Battleclade servitor operatives with each other, excluding Gun Servitor, and you can swap the locations of friendly Battleclade Gun Servitor operatives with each other, remove them from the kill zone, and set them back up again. You cannot swap any operatives that have done any of the following during the battle: used any weapons on their data card, performed any actions on their data card, or used the Meccano Suture array rule for the Technomedic. So I've played several games, and on all of those games I've taken nothing but the faction equipment just so I could test them out, and yet this one's pretty useful. If you've got, you know, the gun servitors here, if your opponent does something freaky and he tries to run away from the heavy arc rifle, you know, go over this, you know, then you can just swap the gun servitors. You know, it's actually really, really good. And there are several instances where you'll just swap round. You know, if they're all kind of ganging around your guy with the, you know, the melter gun, then you just swap him, you know, for a guy with an Incendiary Igniter, and that way, you know, it is really good in that first turning point when you're positioning and you're getting ready, you know, to start scoring from turning point 2 onwards. It's nice to be able to just swap a few things around just to make sure you've got the best positioning for your pieces in the kill zone. I've used it. I think it's good. Let's move on to the next one. Battleclade faction equipment, Covert Guises. After revealing this equipment option, roll 1d3 as a strategic gambit in the first turning point. A number of friendly Battleclade operatives equal to the result that are wholly within your drop zone can immediately perform a free reposition action, but must end that move wholly within 3 inches of your drop zone. Your Technoarcheologist operative cannot perform more than 1 reposition action in the strategy phase of the first turning point, i.e. as a result of the Seeker of Divine Arcana rule as well. So I think this is good as well. It's not massively over strong, but it's definitely strong. Now, obviously, your Technoarcheologist has got his Seeker of Divine Arcana, so you can obviously reposition him if you want to. But then, like I say, you roll a d3 dice, let's say you get a 2, you can then perform 2 repositions with your servitors, so wherever you place them, you have some amount of moving them around, depending on where your enemy places operatives. Again, you know, like I say, it's very useful. it's overly very decent. You know, in some circumstances, you know, it can be strong. If you rolled a 3, you know, it can be very strong. If you roll just 1, you know, it's not as strong. But, you know, I've used it. It's useful. It's up to you whether you want to take it or not. But I like to take the faction equipment when I'm learning a new kill team. And I definitely try it for yourselves. Let's go to the next faction piece now. Battleclade faction equipment, Electromantic Capacitors. Friendly Battleclade operatives' melee weapons have the shock weapon rule. Whenever a friendly Battleclade operative is retaliating, its melee weapons also have the severe weapon rule. In the games I've played using the faction equipment, it's been okay. You know, every time that you go fight, I mean, the melee weapons in the Battleclade kit aren't great. You know, most of the operatives have got pretty poor, you know, weapons. By adding the shock to all of them, I suppose makes them better. And if they're going to obviously charge into you and fight you and you end up retaliating, you've also got the severe weapon rule. I mean, all I can say about this really is it's decent. It's not even strong, but it's very decent. There are some instances, if you're going up against melee teams, you know, who are charging in and fighting, then it proves to be, you know, nothing more than decent. But, you know, I tried all the faction equipment. I don't think I personally take this one myself, but if you're doing some training games, you know, if you've got a local club where you play, give it a try, see for yourself. But in most cases, I don't think you'll be taking it. Let's see the last equipment choice. Battleclade faction equipment, Neurocyclic reserve cells. After revealing this equipment option, roll 1d3 a number of times during the battle equal to the result. Whenever you transfer power, you can use this rule. If you do, don't subtract 1 from the operative's APL stat, but it cannot perform the shoot or fight actions during the activation. This takes precedence over the normal Noospheric network rules. I liked this one at first until I realized that you couldn't shoot or fight. So I thought, when I read it wrong. So, you know, I think I rolled again a 2. Like I always seem to roll 2 on D3 rolls. So, right, 2 times I can transfer power, shoot, use my gun servitors, you know, use my breacher's last cutter, blah, blah, blah. But no, you can't. It can't perform shoot or fight actions during the activation. So in that way, it's just decent. Yeah, you can use it, you know, it's not that great at all, to be honest. I can't think of any examples really right off the top of my head. But like I said, if you could shoot or fight, I think it would be very strong and I'd instantly take it. But the fact that you can only do mission actions, I mean, you've got things like, you know, the Gaze of the Omnisire, and you've got things like the Technomedic action, you know, so it is useful that you can perform the special actions for people. You know, the breacher can perform his breach action. You can give them an action point to take an objective. So you could reposition, shoot, and then to do the transfer power, you know, to take an objective and those sorts of things. So, you know, it is useful, but the fact that you can't shoot or fight, I think stops it being very strong. But this is the end of all the faction equipment. Like I said earlier in the video, we are going to be producing a Battleclade strategy guide where I'm going to go through the faction rule, all of the additional rules for the operatives, the special actions, and all of the equipment choices and the ploys. But for now, let's go on to the strategy ploys for the Kill Team Battleclade. The Battleclade Kill Team has 4 strategy ploys. We have Duty of Reclamation, Incantation of the Iron Soul, Noospheric Possession, and Prioritized Acquisition. As with the faction equipment, I'm going to go through all of them in detail. The first one coming up is Duty of Reclamation. Battleclade strategy ploy, Duty of Reclamation. Once per action, you can use the command reroll Firefight ploy for 0 CP if the attack or defense dice was rolled for a friendly Battleclade operative that tests an objective marker or one of your mission markers. So Yeah, once per hour. So yeah, it's circumstantial. I haven't actually used this one myself personally because none of the games I played with this team became, hotly contested. It was kind of like, yeah, not really necessary. But I nearly used it a couple of times, but I never did. But essentially, if you spend the command point in the strategy phase on this, then every operative, once per action, you can use command Firefight, Ploy for 0 CP on the attack or defense dice. So as long as you're obviously within range of an objective marker or one of your TAC Ops mission markers, you can do that. I didn't play TAC Ops, I just used Crit Ops and Kill Ops, the preliminary ops out the core book, so I didn't get to be around any mission markers. And obviously, I never got into a hotly contested. I think the center objective in one game became a bit contested, but he killed one of mine, I killed one of his. We never got into, we just kept wiping each other out. So yeah, I mean, I do think that this strategy ploy would be useful, but as of yet, I haven't used it. But hopefully, when it gets to the strategy guide, I'll show you then. Let's look at the next strategy ploy now. Battleclade strategy ploy, Incantation of the Iron Soul. Whenever an attack dice inflicts damage of 3 or more on a friendly Battleclade operative, roll 1d6. On a 5-up, subtract 1 from that inflicted damage. I used this a couple of times and it was useful. I think I used it once in Turning Point 2 earlier in the game because there was a lot of guns around me and I wanted to be careful, and I think he went first, gave me the extra obviously command point because I was going second, so I just used it on this strat ploy. Yeah, and it shaved off a few wounds, and then I think I used it in another game towards the end when my guys were looking a bit desperate, and I couldn't use my Technomedic to heal all of them, and most of them had wound markers, because most of them had lost wounds. So it is useful, but unfortunately I think a 4-up subtract 1 would be better, but a 5-up, it is useful. I wouldn't say it's very strong at all, but it's decent. It's useful. I've used mine twice. It's nice to have it there. Let's look at the next strategy ploy. Battleclade strategy ploy, Noospheric Possession. Support. When a friendly Battleclade Servitor operative is within 6 inches of a friendly Battleclade Auto-Proxy or Battleclade Servitor Underseer operative, that friendly Servitor operative weapons have the Accurate 1 weapon rule. For the purposes of this support rule and the comms device equipment, the Auto-Proxy or Servitor Underseer operative must control your comms device marker and add 3 to its distance requirement for this rule. Add 3 inches to its distance requirement for this rule. Yes, I didn't take the comms device marker, obviously, because I took all 4 faction equipment. If I was going to drop one, like I said, it would probably be the transfer power one and maybe take the comms device, but I didn't. I'll maybe try that in another game. But I did use this once because I had quite a few guns, gun options ready. I had both my gun servitors, and obviously there was some good gunfighting abilities. So yeah, it was useful. My gun servitors had Accurate 1, my breacher servitor had Accurate 1, and it did definitely help. I rolled quite well as well, and he rolled about average on save, so I wiped out a few of his operatives. It's potentially strong depending on how many people you've got left with guns and how many good opportunities to shoot you have. If you've got lots of gun operatives left and there are plenty of targets, it's definitely worth considering. I had fun with mine worked well, but it's not something that you just always pay for, but in my instance it did really, really well. I was happy with it. Let's look at the last strategy ploy. Battleclade strategy ploy, Prioritised Acquisition. Select one objective marker or one of your mission markers. Whenever determining control of that marker, treat the total APL stat of friendly Battleclade operative that contest it as 1 higher if at least 1 friendly Battleclade operative contests that marker. Note this isn't a change to the APL stat, so any changes are cumulative with this. Whenever a friendly Battleclade operative is within 3 inches of that marker, add 1 to the attack stat of its melee weapons to a maximum of 4. So I used this one once as well. Because I'd done quite a lot of the transfer powering, A lot of my servitors were at -1 APL, so I think I had 3 of them around the center objective, and instead of having 6 APL on that objective, I only had 3, because obviously they're all -1 from transferring power, so this came handy there and stopped my opponent being able to come out and take it, because he had 1, he could have come out with 2, giving him 4 APL, and he would have been able to take it, but this obviously bumped mine up to 6. And obviously when they're fighting, I don't think I did any fighting, you know, to get the extra attack stat, but you know, it would have been nice had he charged in and tried to beat me off the objective. So, you know, I used this once, and yeah, it was useful. That's the end of the strategy ploys. I'm not going to give you examples now. Obviously that's coming in the strategy guide. When I produce the Battleclade kill team strategy guide, I'll be going through everything I've said earlier in the video. But finally, let's look at the Firefight ploys for kill team Battleclade. Battleclade Firefight ploy, and as you can see there are 4 of them, as with all kill teams. The first is Auto-Ferric Supplication, then we have Remote Access, Servile Surrogacy, and System Exorcism. I'm going to go through all of these in detail now, and the first one coming up is Auto-Ferric Supplication. Battleclade Firefight ploy Auto-Ferric Supplication. Use this Firefight ploy when an operative is shooting a friendly Battleclade Tech Priest operative. At the start of the roll attack dice step, until the end of the sequence, ignore the piercing weapon rule. This is a great Firefight ploy to protect your Technoarcheologist and your Servitor Underseer. I didn't use it in mine because a few of mine I went up and had blast, and they, you know, there wasn't any instances to use it. I kept my Tech Priests way back and just used them for their special actions. But yeah, I mean, your Tech Priests are very, very vital to success with the Battleclade kill team. So having a Firefight ploy to remove the piercing weapon rule, and obviously that would include piercing 2 as well as piercing 1. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's piercing 1 or 2, any or piercing crits, any of those combinations, you remove them from their data cards, from their weapon rules. So, you know, it is potentially strong, and you have to keep those Tech Priests alive. I didn't use it because I didn't run into a situation where, but I can guarantee you if someone shot at my Tech Priest, and I would definitely consider using this all the time. Let's go to the next ploy. Battleclade Firefight ploy Remote Access. Use this Firefight ploy when a friendly Battleclade Tech Priest operative's activation. Once during that activation, you can use one of the following rules. That operative doesn't require a marker to be within its control range to perform a mission action that usually requires this. This takes precedence over the action's conditions. Instead, the marker must be within 4 inches of it, and no enemy operatives can contest that marker. However, you can ignore enemy operatives within control range of other Battleclade operatives when determining this. And the other rule is that operatives doesn't require a hatchway's access point to be within its control range to operate an open hatch action. Instead, that access point must be within 4 inches of it. So I didn't use this one either. Obviously, the second part, the operate hatch at the bottom, is for Gallow Dart. I've played mine on Volker, so I haven't played the Battleclade on Gallow Dart yet. But yeah, I mean, the fact that he can be 4 inches away, you can spend a command point and then obviously, you know, flip an objective is useful. I haven't used it, so we'll have to wait till the strategy guide to go through it. Let's go on to the next Firefight ploy. It seems useful though, it seems useful. But let's look at the next ploy anyway. Battleclade Firefight ploy Servile Surrogacy. Use this Firefight ploy when a friendly Battleclade Tech Priest operative is selected as the valid target of a shoot action or to fight against during the fight action. Select one friendly Battleclade Servitor operative visible to and within 3 inches of that first friendly operative to become the valid target or to be fought against as appropriate instead, even if it would wouldn't normally be valid for this. If it's the fight action, treat the Servitor operative as being within the fighting operative's control range for the duration of that action. If it's the shoot action, that servitor operative is only in cover or obscured if the original target was. This ploy has no effect if it's the shoot action and the ranged weapon has blast or torrent weapon rule. So I did use this once to protect my Technoarcheologist in the first game. I think it was turning point 3, and I had the combat servitor with a phosphor blaster kind of placed in front of him so that nobody could charge in, you know, like as a shield. He was a couple of inches away. So somebody declared to shoot at my tech priest Technoarcheologist, and I spent a command point. It meant they had to shoot, and they did. They killed the guy with a phosphor blaster, but you know, they didn't harm my Technoarcheologist. So yeah, circumstantially is very strong. If you're going to play Battleclade, you want to have servitors in and around your tech priest operatives, your underseer, and you know, and using these servitors as bodyguards later in the game is very, very useful. Mine was useful, and you know, it's nice to have, and it was well worth a command point. Let's look at the last Firefight ploy. Battleclade Firefight ploy system exorcism. Use this Firefight ploy when you would activate a friendly Battleclade operative. Remove one rules effect or stat change your opponent has applied to it. Examples are poison token or minus APL, say from stun. Cannot be activated or perform actions. Then activate it. This ploy cannot allow it to regain lost wounds, ignore the effects of being injured, or remove the -1 APL that you have applied to it from the transfer power in the Noospheric network. Okay, I used this once against the Hearthkin Jaegers or Salvagers, I forget which one, against Hearthkin, and I'm pretty sure he had a token on me, some kind of poison token that inflicted D3 damage, and my guy had 2 wounds left. So I spent a Firefight ploy to remove that token, and then I didn't have to roll the D3 because there's obviously 66% of the time he would have died. You know, I had to have scored a 1 or a 2 to stay alive on 1 wound. So it proved useful in that instance. And yeah, it's great. Another way it would be great, which didn't come up, if someone threw a stun grenade and it hit, you know, a small block of your servitors, and they all had -1 APL, and then you could select one of those, use system exorcism, so then they'd still have 2 APL, and then you could do the Noospheric network and transfer power and network counteract, because if it was at -1 APL from the stun grenade, you wouldn't be able to network counteract with them. So, you know, it is very, very useful for things like poison tokens and all those things, but it's definitely very useful if you're coming up against stun grenades, because if you're going to play Battleclade a lot, you'll find lots of your opponents will bring stun grenades, because the -1 APL can really rain on the parade when it comes to network counteract and Noospheric network. So yeah, I used mine, it was good. This is the end of the review video, the Firefight ploys. Now, I'll take you to the last part, and I'll tell you what's coming up next. I've had a fantastic time playing with the Battleclade kill team. I've had a fantastic time doing the painting video. I know the paints aren't brilliant, but at least they're battle ready. I've had a fantastic time doing this review video. What's coming up next is a strategy guide for the kill team. So I'm going to be doing a battle report as well, and then hopefully within the next couple of weeks I'll have a full strategy guide detailing the faction rule, detailing all the special actions, going through all examples, and if there's any instances where I don't have an example, then I'll obviously just set one up and show you. I've had a fantastic time. My name's Gar. Thank you for watching Let's Get Critical. Have a good day. Bye bye.